In this section, we will be looking at identifying the use cases from ACI migration perspective. I would like to take an example consisting of 3 use cases. And I'm confident that about 90% of your migration will be some flavor of these 3 use cases. Over here, the focus is on building analogous Layer 2 and Layer 3 constructs in ACI. We will not get into the details around contracts since we have already covered that in the previous videos. Also, to reiterate, contracts are Layer 4 to 7 only, and in this video we are focused on Layer 2 and Layer 3. So let's get started by opening the diagram. In this example, I have created a physical/logical detail diagram on left hand side and a simplified logical diagram on right hand side. Now over here we have a couple of dual home servers which have an internal interface for connectivity to the internal networks and an external interface for connectivity to the internet. Of course, there are diverse set of NICs connected on to diverse set of switches for redundancy purposes. The gateway for the access of the internal network is on the network switch, and all this is contained within VLAN 300. So if you would see VLAN 300, there is an SVI which is there on both the switches, and there is an HSRP. So in the next hop from the server's internal interface standpoint is that HSRP on the private VRF or the private Layer 3 domain. On the other hand, the external interface of the server is behind a firewall, and the default gateway of the external interface of the server sits on the firewall. In essence, from network switch perspective, this is just a Layer 2 communication. And all this is contained within VLAN 100. So if you would take a look at VLAN 100 within this diagram, you're not going to see any SVIs or any kind of Layer 3 constructs on these switches because the default gateway sits on the internal interface of the firewall, and in this case it is 92.92.92.1. Now let's take a look at the firewall itself. It has an internal interface connecting to the servers and an external interface which connects the firewall to the internet. The internet gateway of the firewall sits on the network switches, and these switches point a static route towards the interface of the firewall. All the static routing and internet domain connectivity is contained within VLAN 200. So if you would see in this diagram, you have an external interface via VLAN 200. It's connected to a Layer 3 domain or the internet VRF, and from this internet VRF again there is an HSRP, so the default route on the firewall will be pointing towards this HSRP, and the static route 92.92.92.0/24 will be pointing towards external interface on the firewall. Now let us try to translate these use cases into ACI constructs. VLAN 100, which is our Layer 2 transit use case, will be our simplest use case. Let's call it use case number 1. VLAN 300, which is our directly connected subnet without any kind of static routes or any routing on it, will be our use case number 2. And VLAN 200, which has a static route from the network switch towards the firewall, will be our use case number 3 and the most complicated use case.